I want to quickly talk to you about how to do you handle really past due business taxes. Okay, so here's an overview I want you to pay attention to. So the thing is that your business owes back taxes. Okay, what should you do next? And so the thing is that most business owners do their best to pay their small business taxes in full by the due date, but you never know. Stuff happens. You know, you have financial problems. You have COVID. There's a lot of stuff. It's really possible to miss a deadline because of too many day-to-day responsibilities or a hefty tax bill you can't afford. And failure to file and pay, let's just pay past due taxes can really lead to a number of problems and penalties. And you do not want to really hear about those penalties. But there are a few things you can do to actually fix things beforehand. So first, let me talk to you about consequences of owing business back taxes. I mean, you can really have an idea, but I just want to clarify things for you so you know exactly the extent of your personal liability and personal responsibilities. So understand that the standard tax deadlines for businesses, the thing is that most companies must file their taxes by either March 15th or April 15th, depending upon the kind of configuration they have. Now, if you basically, if you owe back taxes, your business rather owes back taxes, you have interest and penalties that accrue. You might actually forfeit your tax refund. Your property could be foreclosed upon, and your passport could be revoked, and you could really face jail time. I mean, in extreme circumstances. So interest and penalties always accrue. So as long as your taxes are overdue, interest and penalties can add up real fast. For example, if you file your return more than 60 days after the due date, the IRS can assess a minimum penalty of $205 and a maximum penalty of 25% of the amount of taxes owed plus interest. That's just the penalty for late filing. The penalty for late payment can range from 0.5% to as much as 25% of your unpaid taxes per month. That's per month. So you actually might forfeit your tax refund. So you know, it's one of those things where you just never know, and you could really also face jail time. So this is obviously the most extreme situation, and it doesn't happen as often as news programs and crime dramas lead us to believe. However, if you purposely ignore notices from the IRS or evade your tax responsibilities, you could ultimately actually be arrested. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. Let me give you the steps you really need to follow if your business owes back taxes. There are a few things you can do. And so if your business is basically behind on taxes, there are some steps. So first of all, you want to file for an extension. Very important. That should be like an automatic sort of reflex for you to actually think about asking for more time. So you can file for an extension to file your tax return, giving you and your tax preparer until the fall to file, rather than March or April. So instead of having March or April, you have 6 months. Okay, when you actually file for an extension, you have all the way until October to pay your taxes. This will not reduce the amount of taxes you owe or stop interest and penalties from accruing, but it does give you more time to get your return together, right? It's all about getting time. So that's the first thing you want to do. You want to file for an extension automatically. The second thing you want to do here is to respond to all IRS notices. Do not ghost the agency. Don't try to play games. Do not ghost them. If they ask you questions, if they send you notices, you want to acknowledge those notices, and you want to respond to those notices. You want to do it promptly. Okay. It's important to respond as soon as possible to any IRS notices that you receive by email or regular mail. Even if you're unable to afford your taxes, it's always important to keep a line of communication open with the IRS. Do not ghost them. Okay, they really hate that, and it's really not good for you either, because you always want to find a win-win situation with the authorities anyway. And the third thing you can do after filing for an extension, responding to all IRS notices, is to actually consider a payment plan. So if you are unable to afford your entire tax bill right away, you can set up a short-term or long-term payment plan with the IRS. And the cool thing is that businesses that qualify for this sort of payment plan can actually set up a payment plan online. They can do so online, not a problem. Alternatively, You might be able to take advantage of an offer and compromise and OIC. We talked about that on another show. I don't have time to speak about it in this show, but it's called OIC, offer and compromise. So this settles your tax bill for less than the amount owed if you demonstrate an inability to pay. Boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about how to handle past due business taxes. Another thing you can try to do here is to request currently not collectible status. So this is actually the NCS status. So what is that? So if the IRS finds that you can't cover reasonable living expenses and pay your taxes back, they might temporarily place your account in currently not collectible status. You still will owe the tax, and penalties and interest will continue to accumulate, but the IRS won't engage in collection efforts against you during this time. So the IRS will review your financial situation every year and expect you to pay when you are able to. So again, so that's called the NCS status, so the non-collectible status. But again, it doesn't mean that you can just forget about the IRS. Another thing you can do is to contact a CPA or tax attorney. So if you owe a large amount in back taxes, it's really wise to retain a CPA or tax attorney who is experienced in settling tax debt. You can also reach out to an enrolled agent and EA to kind of help you out. So it's all about really trying to really find the best situation, best circumstances for your scenario, for your situation, so you can solve your tax problems. Another thing you can do here, and this is a really extreme, it's one of those things where we're not actually advising anybody to file for bankruptcy here. We're just giving, this show is purely informational. We're giving ideas, and please, it's always better to contact a specialist before resorting to such an extreme scenario. So, but yeah, that extreme scenario is to consider bankruptcy. So filing for business bankruptcy is never something you should take lightly, but it can be a last resort for business owners who owe a lot of back taxes. And so if you file your tax return on time and find that you made a mistake, it's just better to file an amended tax return. Don't actually ask for an extension. Just file an amended tax return. Okay, so those are differences here. So the bottom line here is that the best way to handle past due business taxes is, number one, to actually file for an extension. Number two, you want to respond to all IRS notices. Number three, you want to consider a payment plan. Number four, you want to request currently not collectible status. Number five, think about actually contacting a CPA or tax attorney or EA. And number six, consider bankruptcy. Let's talk about the approach you need to follow here if you're trying to really handle past due business taxes in a responsible manner. And so if you miss the tax deadline, you are in luck, right? So the IRS has made the process to file your back taxes easier. In years past, all past due tax returns had to be filed on paper forms. Nowadays, and thank God, I mean, because they actually introduced this, what I'm about to tell you, the MEF platform about 3 or 4 years ago. So with the introduction of the MEF modernized e-file, you can electronically file your 1040 returns for the past 2 years. If you're going back further than 2 years, or if you need to file past due taxes not reported on Form 1040 or Form 1065 or Form 1120 or 1120S, you need to file using paper forms. Corporations, partnerships, and multi-member LLCs usually use different forms for their small business tax returns. Okay, so corporations, we have what? 1120. C corporation, Form 1120. S corporation, 1120S. Partnerships, 1065. Multi-member LLCs, 1065, depending upon if they elect to file as a partnership, 1065. If they elect something else, it's actually the appropriate return. And one thing I want to say here is that if that's the case, you must use the original forms for the tax years for which you are filing. In other words, that means that you can't use this year's tax preparation software package or this year's tax return to try to file last year's taxes. Doing that might cause problems with the current year's return, and it will almost certainly lead to you having to submit the past due tax return again. Okay, so you got to have this sort of match between the year. And so you can find every previous year tax forms you need as well as the instructions and tax tables for each year on the IRS website, simply search for the appropriate tax form number or form title. So you want to get the right documents to file your back taxes. And so if you are more than a year or two past due on your tax filings, it means that you might have a hard time locating your tax documents. If your business is your sole source of income, you'll have to catch up on your bookkeeping in order to be able to accurately complete your previous year's filings, okay? And so this means you need to recreate your books using your bank accounts and credit card statements. And credit card companies are getting better about allowing access to historical statements online. But if you use a smaller bank, local banks do not have this sort of capability. Okay. If you also have income from a W-2 job, talk to your boss and make sure that they can actually give you the proper documents. Or if you actually served as an independent contractor, ask your contracting party if they can send you a 1099 NEC. Boss, I want to quickly remind you to this topic. We are having a conversation about how to handle past due business taxes. Let me give you a few pro tips here. As we're trying to really handle past due business taxes, you can pay your business back taxes before applying for a business loan. So it's important to pay your back taxes before applying for a business loan or business line of credit, because most lenders, based on our research, require at least your most recent tax return in order to process a business loan application. And some require several years worth of tax returns, especially if you're asking for a large amount. If you're asking for a massive amount, your lender might actually require to have like 3 years, tax returns, business tax returns for the last 3 years. And so there are several reasons for this, though. The thing is that you have verification of income. So some business owners might be tempted to inflate their income numbers in order to qualify for a loan. However, the opposite is true when they are filing the tax returns. Potential lenders will use your business tax returns to verify the income you are reporting on your loan application. So it has to be a match. So they do this to actually reconcile the numbers, okay, across different platforms. And so they also want to pay attention to profitability trends. So lenders are interested in seeing how profitable your business is. So especially if you're applying for a long-term loan, lenders want to see a history of profitability. This is why many lenders will ask for 3 years worth of tax returns, and having a history of profitability increases your chances of getting the loan you need at a good rate. And also lenders are asking for this sort of tax documents as a beacon, if you will, as a beacon of responsibility and trustworthiness. So while filing your tax returns and paying by the tax deadline has no direct bearing on your credit score, failing to file past due taxes can indicate a lack of responsibility and trustworthiness. So these two things could actually adversely impact a lender's decision regarding your loan or line of credit. So it's one of those things where just keep in mind your lender will probably also ask you to review your company's financial statements, but this does not preclude your requirements to provide tax returns with your loan application. I really want to come back and really insist on the fact that there are certain serious consequences if you don't file and pay your business taxes by the due date. Okay, you will owe what's called back taxes, and back taxes, as you can imagine, can have serious consequences for a small business. And so we're talking about what we're speaking about. I think I've given you an idea of the sort of consequences you can actually expect. So we talk about what? We talk about interest and penalties that really continue to accrue. You have seized business assets. You have difficulty scoring lines of credit, difficulty securing lines of credit, difficulty securing loans, for instance, business loans. There are some cases where you may find it difficult to even have a net 30 account. Oh yeah, like a lot of vendors before they actually approve your net 30 account, they check your credit score, and they also, so if you owe back taxes and the IRS reports your business to the business credit bureaus, this could tarnish your business credit score. So business credit bureaus, we're speaking here about Dun and Bradstreet. We're speaking about Experian business and also Equifax business. And one thing I want to say here is that you want to always prioritize the payment of back taxes. You want, I mean, it's not a matter of like how much you're given, is the fact that you are given something. So if you owe 10 grand, for instance, and you actually you're paying like a little by little, you're paying maybe 500 here, 1,000 there. I mean, now like 200, 100, whatever, or $75. It's all about being active and really responding to the IRS. And one thing I want to say here is that whatever your circumstance, you have options for how and when you pay your debts. So you are able to always reach out to the IRS in terms of asking for an extension. You are also able to ask for a payment plan. You're also able to to start a conversation where you can have an OIC, for instance, offer and compromise. Bottom line here is that you want to communicate with the IRS. Never ghost them. Never really ignore the IRS, whatever. When they send you notices, you always want to respond to their notices all the time. Now let's talk about what to do if you can't pay your business taxes. So really, what happens here is that you want to really continue to run your business. At the same time, you want to avoid enforced collection, right? So if you want to avoid enforced collection from the IRS, you really got to speak to authorities. You got to start the conversation with the authorities as soon as possible, right? And so you want to get into agreement with the IRS. So the IRS actually offers several options, including extensions. I think I've said this before. Extensions are really like I think that's just the easiest path here. If you are a small business and you really want to sort things out, you need to file Form 7004. So this is actually established the extension request for your tax return. And so businesses that are in financial hardship should consider special programs that offer deferred payments and settlements. So there are deferred payment and settlement programs for all kinds of businesses, okay? And it's one of those things where basically if you file your business tax return and can't pay, or your business still owes taxes from a tax return, you always have options. Please make sure that you avail yourself of those options. And one thing I want to say here is that you need to really understand that you need to confirm rather that you are in filing and payment compliance. So before you can get in any payment agreement with the IRS, you must file all of the businesses that require tax returns, all the 1065 for the previous tax years, all of the 1120 or 1120S or whatever it is. You need to really file all those to make sure that the IRS can really establish how much overall you owe. And make sure you actually owe the amount of back taxes the IRS says you do, right? So if they say you owe 10 grand, maybe you might want to enlist the help of an accountant to ascertain that amount to make sure that you owe 10 grand. So you want to evaluate your options. So you want to choose the best one for your circumstances. And so when we talk about, you need to really consider your facts, including how much the business can pay with existing assets or in monthly payments, the impact of any potential tax lien, the impact of any additional penalties and interest, right? And so based on your facts, you want to choose the best payment arrangement for you. So the IRS options include a short-term extension of time to pay, one of several types of monthly payment plans called installment agreements with different terms and conditions. You can have a temporary reprieve based on your documented financial hardship situation called currently not collectible status, right? So the NCS. You also have the OIC that I just spoke about earlier, the offer and compromise. So this is actually an IRS options for qualifying taxpayers in highly specific financial circumstances to pay less than the full amount they owe to settle the tax debt. And then you need to obtain an agreement with the IRS. Please make sure the agreement is in writing. Very important. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I spoke to you about how to handle past due business taxes. let's do a quick recap here. So I give you the overview of the situation, the steps you need to follow, the approach, the pro tips, a winner strategy to kind of help you out. And now I'm doing a recap. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.